My girlfriend at the time. I went out camping in the backwoods of Greenbrier County, West Virginia. We were both 18 years old and drove about 5 hours to get to the camping spot to stay Friday through Sunday. Friday afternoon, we arrive and make camp. I put up the tent, and we took a short hike, and then I built a fire, and then we settled in for the night. No issues so far. Saturday morning, we wake up to get ready for the day of adventuring. We were busy walking miles and miles. We ran into two different sets of people, who were also camping fairly close to where we were. Eventually, the sun surrenders to darkness, and out in this area, nighttime is super dark. We have lanterns and flashlights. No major issues except for a few mosquitoes. Shortly around after 1 a.m., we turned it in for the night, zipped up the tent, and we were both out pretty quick after a day of full activity. I'm a very light sleeper, and it didn't feel like it was very long until after I fell asleep. I heard a soft rustling sound. Whatever was making the noise sounded like it was about 20 yards away from the tent. I looked over at my girlfriend, sound asleep. Why can't I sleep like that? I figured that the soft rustling sound was a small animal or something else minor, and then just try to go back to sleep. Then, the soft rustling sound stopped. Then suddenly, in the silence of the night, I heard a thud sound. It sounded like a decent-sized piece of wood falling onto the forest floor from a couple feet high. Coming from the same direction, the soft rustling sound came from. Again, my girlfriend didn't hear anything, and was still asleep. I had to go pee anyway, so I began to unzip the tent, and my girlfriend slightly woke, rolled over asking, "Where are you going?" Not wanting to worry her, I told her I had to pee, and then grabbed a flashlight, and then crawled out of the tent immediately, shining the light in the direction the sound was coming from. There was nothing. Just trees, bushes, total darkness. That seemed as if it was swallowing up the beam of the flashlight. I walked around the edge of the campsite, looking for anything out of the ordinary. Just as I was about to give up, the flashlight beam caught two reflections out in the dark. They were eyes. They were looking back at me. I stood there. Flashlight beam locked on the eyes. They appeared low to the ground. Didn't seem to be moving after a few seconds. 2 points of light moved to reveal it was nothing but a bunny. I laughed at myself, answered nature's call. I returned to the tent, laughing at myself. I settled back to my sleeping bag, trying to fall asleep, and I was almost there when out of nowhere, I heard a very loud noise, like the footsteps of a T-Rex from Jurassic Park. I sat up, waiting to hear more sounds. Images of what could possibly be making these noises in the middle of the night flashed through my head. I remained awake for another hour and a half or so until I finally fell asleep for the night. In the morning, some of those nearby campers we had met the day before walked up to our campsite, asking if we had heard or seen anything from the night before. My girlfriend began to reply, "No, we didn't," before I interrupted her and said I had heard some strange noises. The other campers ran into a wildlife officer who had told them to be on alert, as a bear had been spotted in the vicinity. Back when I had just got my license, we would go camp up in the George Washington National Forest, so we would drink a few beers underage and not get into trouble. It was me, my two brothers, and another friend. We had a fire, we played loud music, and got drunk. They all wanted to go back down the road to this cabin, because we saw on the drive there what looked like a party going on, and we knew the cabin owner, so they went off into the dark, walking to the cabin, while I stayed back and tended the fire. Anyway, a few hours later, like 2 a.m., they all stumble back, and one of our buddies is complaining that these people stole his cell phone. and he wanted to go back and get it, but we all told him that we'll stop in the morning to go look, and to go to bed right now. So, next morning, we pack up and head down the road to the cabin. And as I'm driving down the road, out of nowhere, this dude flies out of the woods and starts beating on the hood of my truck. He was completely covered in blood. We all get out, and we tell him to back up, trying to figure out what is going on. This dude says the people in the cabin took his phone and beat the shit out of him. So, we go down to the cabin, because I wanted to see if the owners were there. They were not. People staying there were what we described back in the day as devil worshippers. You know, back in the old satanic panic was going on. Anyway, my buddy is frantically looking for his phone, and the bloody guy comes down to the cabin, and this huge goth grunge guy comes out of the cabin and just starts beating this guy with a log. I tell my buddy and hit my brothers, we have to leave now. Fuck your phone. And we got the hell out of there. I think we called 911 once we got back into service to tell them what we had saw, but we never knew what happened after we left. Well, I don't live in, or even near the Appalachians, but in the year of 1998, I drove up there to pick up a pickup truck, a 1994 Chevy S10. That was such a deal that I couldn't pass it up. It was going to be my son's first car that I found in a magazine ad. It was probably an 8-hour plus drive, but by the end, I was pretty wiped. Soon, I got off the highway, more like a 2-lane road, and onto an off-the-dirt path, but still paved road. But it had power lines, so I wasn't scared. Then it actually turned into a dirt road, and then just a path. I had the creeps at this point, because the sun was going down. I was alone. I was in the middle of some deep woods, in the middle of nowhere, with no weapon. I wasn't even in my own country anymore. I'm from Canada, by the way. But soon enough, I reached the house, which was one-room cabin, at 10 p.m. I stopped my truck, and knocked on the door. No response. So I knocked, and waited. Probably 10 minutes. When I decided, whatever, I'll just look around for the truck. There was no truck, or even any cars here. I called the man from the ad, who said I made the wrong turn about 40 miles ago, and I was in hillbilly country. He advised me to get my ass out of there ASAP. So I hopped into my truck and turned it on. As I was doing so, a man appeared out of the woods, dressed like a homeless man, smoking a cigarette, and yelled something like, "Get out of here! We don't like out-of-towners here!" But I couldn't understand. He was mumbling, and saying it so fast that all of the words just melted together. He ran back into the woods, so I pulled out of the driveway and went on. About 2 minutes down the trail, I noticed a ratty black Dodge pickup truck following me. I didn't think much of it at first. The guy that was driving it seemed to be driving dangerously, swerving, and trying to pass me, etc. Suddenly, my back window exploded, and there was little pellets all over my cabin. They had shot my window out. I didn't know what to think, so I sped up, and was being chased at about 100 kilometers an hour, or 62 miles an hour for Americans, down the trail at 10:30 at night. It was dark as hell, but eventually I gave up, and I got onto a more mainstream road. I called the person selling the truck and asked for directions there. He welcomed me into his home, and when I got there, he gave me directions to the nearest body shop and hotel. In the end, I got the pickup truck, and I had to pay $900 for a window. That sucked, but I had my life, and so that's what mattered to me most. There is a pretty popular trail where I live, part of the Appalachian in North Jersey. I still cannot explain what happened this one evening. My friend and I decided to take the 2-hour trek to this spot to watch the fireworks, till we realized we went on the wrong day. Feeling dumb and defeated, we walked all the way back toward my house, where we almost back to the trail which connected to my neighborhood, and it was separated by a trail that we were on by a field. It was getting late, and the sun was setting quickly, when we heard this animal-like screaming over the music. We looked at each other, horrified, thinking that it was a mountain lion, and ran for about 10 feet, when I stopped, turned off my music, and listened again. The inhuman screaming sound turned into what sounded like a woman singing or chanting in another language. Then the man's voice chimed in. We looked around frantically for people, couldn't see anyone or anything. We sprinted all the way home, and decided to cut it into town. As soon as I got near the grocery store is when I finally felt safe. We have not been able to find an explanation for what that was, and we still do not know until this day.